Boyhood chronicles the journey of Mason, a 6-year-old child whose parents have split up, and the next 12 years of his life. And I certainly have to say that while I do certainly appreciate and in fact am in awe of the very ambition and in fact concept that the film really possesses, ultimately it left me wanting something more. Now in this film we have Mason portrayed by Eller Crowtrain, and we really get to see the journey of Mason through the course of an extremely interesting part of his life. In fact, ultimately him going from boyhood to adulthood, if you will. And it's really interesting to witness this simply because of the very dynamics within his family and within his friends. In fact, considering the fact that his parents are split up, there is a lot of matter that certainly exists. And it is, of course, Ethan Hawke's character that is his father's character that is in fact the most interesting, and it's that journey that they go through with regards to the parents having been split up and Mason trying to have to deal with that and ultimately grow and in fact come of age, if you will, is something that is of course beautiful to witness on screen, especially because of how the film was made. Furthermore, what I really loved about Boyhood was that it managed to chronicle not just the journey of this child, but really the changing times, if you will, over these 12 years, by in fact through each various scene or each act of the film, if you will, considering this could be considered a 12-act piece, really managing to accentuate certain popular things of the time, really bringing about the setting so beautifully, thereby showing how the setting and the mindset of the characters really are in tandem with one another and really how they play with one another as well. And I certainly do appreciate how the film was made, that is shooting once every year for a span of 12 entire years in order to make this film that some are considering a masterpiece, and in my personal opinion, the ambition and the technique behind it. From a technical perspective alone, the film is well presented in more ways than one. At the same time, do I personally believe that this concept or this technique is enough to make the film as grand as I believe it should be, and I don't necessarily think that that is so. There were certain moments here and there where I felt that the film was rather improvised. Now, while the film doesn't necessarily have any particular focus, which in one sense could be considered the very idea of the ups and downs of life, at the same time there were certain things in subplots I was far more connected to, especially that with regards to Ethan Hawke's character and him trying to connect to his children. Something so beautifully presented on screen, of course through a fantastic performance by Ethan Hawke. Ultimately, I felt like this lack of focus really didn't let me connect to a whole lot of things, considering the fact that I didn't necessarily connect to Mason's character earlier on. And I certainly do have to say that the film is rather unorthodox, if you will. It doesn't necessarily have to be about a particular thing, but I felt like there was an arc that was warranted through the course of this film that ultimately I never felt really got entirely fulfilled. Ultimately, Boyhood is a film that is presented with a great degree of technical sophistication, of course, and ultimately it is something beautiful and unique to witness on screen, which is certainly the reason that I believe that it warrants at least a one-time watch. At the same time, I do feel that the film could have been so much more, considering the fact that while some might consider this to be a gimmick with regards to how the film tells its own story, I certainly have to say that I did appreciate that and the performances, but really I did not want that gimmick, if you will, to be the only attraction to the film that it really has to offer. Rather, I felt like the film could have done so much more with this almost epic emotional scope, if you will, that I believe it didn't necessarily take advantage of. I'm gonna give Boyhood a yes.